fallen on the floor. So I turned around to see what was wrong. We never did this come from behind in our Protestant churches. The pastor was always just here, and I came out the side door and said, "Good morning, everyone!" But here in the Catholic Church, it was different. As you know, the procession comes from the rear. And I never saw this before, so I looked to see what was wrong. And nothing was wrong. The priest was coming up the aisle, and for the second time in 2 days, I burst into tears, crying. I cried because I was seeing, for the first time with these eyes, an apostolic man. I had millions of preachers, pastors, Bible teachers, evangelists. I had many of them. But I had never once, with my own eyes, seen an apostolic man ordained to the orders of the priesthood all the way back to the apostles. And when I saw that priest, I started to cry. And I looked over at my wife, and she was crying too. And we cried at every single Mass for the next 6 years. And I still cry at Mass. I still can't believe that God had the mercy on me to bring me into the Catholic Church. I was like St. Paul, always against the Church. And here now I come up for the body and blood of Christ, which we'll talk about tomorrow. I still get tears in my eyes and say, "Thank you, God." And yet there are Catholics who are willing to walk away. I went to the pastor after the Mass. And I said to the pastor, the priest, I said, "This is my wife Janet. And we just became Catholics yesterday. And we want to join the church this week so we can have Holy Communion next Sunday." And you can imagine what the priest said. "That's not the way we do it around here." "What do you mean we became a Catholic yesterday?" So we had to wait. I drove the poor pastor crazy. Every day calling him, "We want to be in the Catholic Church. Why do we have to wait so long? Come to my house. I'll show you all the books I read. If there's other books you want me to read, tell me. I will read them." Finally, he said, "Would you like to come into the church on Pentecost, May 22nd? And it was on that day, Pentecost, that Janet and I and our whole family, with tears, were received into the church. But our family and our friends would not attend. Only one couple came, and we had the great pleasure of watching them come into the Catholic Church a year later. And then I'll tell you about the first time I met a bishop, and then we'll stop for the break. It was Confirmation Sunday. We were still not Catholics. We were going to become Catholics, but it was still a few weeks away. And it was Confirmation Sunday, and the bishop was there, and I had no idea the bishop was coming. The music began. Everybody stood up again to look behind as the procession was starting. And I looked back, and for the first time in my life, I saw a bishop. And I knew the bishop was really the one who was the apostolic man. He's the one that's the successor of the apostles. And when I saw him, he had this funny hat on his head that kind of pointed up, and he had this stick. And I didn't know what they were, but I knew now that it's a crozier and a mitre, but I didn't know then, but I knew enough to know that that was the bishop. He had red on it, just like this handsome bishop here, this archbishop. And he started coming up the aisle. I was so overcome with emotion. This is my bishop! I got out of my aisle, I ran to the back, and I stopped the procession. And I hugged the bishop! I hugged him on the neck, and I was crying on his shoulder, and I said, "Thank you for being the bishop in the apostolic succession. Thank you for letting me be a Catholic." And then I knelt and I kissed his ring right in front of everybody. And people said, "Steve Ray, you made a fool of yourself." And I said, "Maybe so, but I would do it again. I will never have another first chance to meet my bishop." I had made fun of the Catholic Church. I had mocked you and tried to get you to leave the Catholic Church. I had called the Eucharist a cookie Christ. Catholics worship a cookie Christ. I had been anti-Catholic, and now I love the Catholic Church. And there is no way for me to display and to express my love for the Church and my willingness to obey the Church than to go to my bishop and kiss his ring so that the people of the world would know, the angels in heaven, and the devil himself would know that I'm obedient now to the Catholic Church. No better way than to kiss the ring of my bishop. Aren't you glad I'm not in your diocese? What if I had died during that Mass without a chance to kiss his ring? I found out later that the deacon had warned the bishop and said, we have a new convert here. We don't know what he's going to do, so prepare for anything. That is just a short version of how Janet and I became Catholic and why we now love the Catholic Church. And do I still love the Bible? Yes. I love the Bible 100 times more now because I know where it came from, and I can read it in the heart of the family. It was intended to be read in the heart of the Catholic Church. That's where the Bible was intended to be read. And I love the Bible more now than I ever loved it before. And I love being Catholic. And that's my conversion story, and I'm sticking with it. We'll be back to talk about Peter, the rock, the keys, and the chair after a quick break.
Thank you, Steve. We shall now have a quick break, 15 or 20 minutes. We have a canteen which is serving refreshments at the back. So you can refresh yourselves and then get back into your chairs in 20 minutes' time. We also have, as I told you, the data cards. So those who have filled in your cards, kindly put them in the drop boxes. We will also be having a love offering being taken up during the second session. We trust that the good Lord will put it into your hearts to be generous to meet the expenses of this convention.